Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Late Night Talk Fishkeeping broadcast. And today I have another amazing guest we get to know together, and hopefully we'll have an amazing evening. Our today's guest is Jessica Norman from Men's Tails, Furs, and Fins, YouTuber, Fishkeeper, the myth, the legend, and much more. Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Pat. I appreciate it.
It's absolute pleasure for me that you actually joined us today. And let's just introduce yourself to our listeners. Who is Jess?
Well, I am a Louisianian from the States. I have horses and cows and fish and chickens and just about every farm animal you can think of. So I'm definitely an animal lover.
That's super great to hear. And approximately a year ago, you've created your YouTube channel that is called Men's Tails, Furs, and Fins. So why have you decided to start your YouTube channel in the first place?
Well, there's a guy that everybody knows, Aquarium Co-op, Corey, and I was watching one of his shows one day, learning about guppies, and he said, why not? What's it going to hurt? Why don't you just try it? And I did. Apparently, I love it, and I enjoy the communication and interaction that I get from it. So, I don't know. I guess it just fit me.
So first of all, you watched Aquarium Co-op's video, and at the end they said that why don't you try YouTube yourself? And that's what made you start your YouTube channel, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
That's super amazing. I actually went through all of your videos, and one of the main reasons why I invited you over was your love to guppies. And as you just said, you've been watching a video about them. But over the time, you have worked with a variety of strains, so let's talk about them, beginning with one of the oldest fancy guppy strains that I could encounter on your channel, and that is half black pastels that are originally coming from Germany. So where did you get this strain in the first place, and what are your experiences with this strain?
Well, I got them off of Aquabid, actually. I really didn't know anybody at that time. And I was told about Aquabid. And so I just kind of went searching and surfing the Aquabid and found the half black pastels. And I liked the white in their tail, but I liked how it had the iridescent colors of the pastel colors. And so you didn't just get, a white and black fish. You got a white fish or a white and black fish with some colors that just kind of shone through sometimes, and depending on what the light was and all of that. So that was, I guess, my attraction to them.
I am a little bit jealous of Aquabit. I think it's an absolutely amazing platform, and I can clearly see why half black pastels are definitely one of the most famous and favorite strains in a hobby. And I'm really, really super happy that you got them. What was your experience with this strain?
Well, I absolutely loved them. I had them for, I had them for about the first 8 months of running my fish room, and being a very inexperienced fish keeper, I put them in a 20-gallon and just colony bred them. So after, you don't know much about culling, you don't, you kind of learn it as you go. I did the wrong thing, and I just let them keep breeding, and I didn't cull much. And so the line started, I don't know, just getting kind of funky. And I decided that I had let it go too far, and that if I was going to keep this strain, that I either needed to bring in some new blood or I just needed to be done with it. So I decided by this time I had found more guppies that I wanted and fell in love with some other strains, and I really fell in love with the Dumbos. So I decided at that time that I would sell the whole line, and I did. Actually, I gave it away because I didn't feel like it was strong enough for anybody to really be taken on as a breeding project. They just needed to go to aquariums that people just wanted to look at them. And so I gave the line away to another fish keeper that I just won't name.
I actually had very similar experience with half black pastels. When I was keeping them, I got a pair, or actually a little colony, and I've started colony breeding them as well. Later on, I've done some selective breeding, but my experiences were as well that the line was a little bit weak, and they've been also dropping some albinos. So definitely the gene pool was not the strongest over there. But it was fun to see that you actually had these experiences with this strain at the beginning. And that led me to another question. What are another strains that you have been working with or you are working with right now? And what are your experiences with those?
Like I said, I have fallen in love with the Dumbos, and I know that like the IFG and the WGA don't see the Dumbo.
Yeah, like they don't really consider it as a standard.
Right. But that is just my favorite strains of guppies, and not just the Dumbo, but the big ear Dumbo. I mean, I just like Finnage, flowy Finnage, and I think that kind of comes from my background of horses and the long manes and tails, and growing up as a little girl and brushing them, and I don't know, I just kind of feel like that's where it stems from. But the ones that I am working with at this moment that are my favorites are the big ear dark dragons and the blue Dumbo dragons, red dragons, which the red and the dark dragons look a lot alike, a lot alike. And so, it's just another name that somebody's given them because they may have had just something just a teeny bit different, right? But really, they do look a lot alike. And then I do have two albino strains. One is Dumbo and one is not. The Dumbo line is the albino Dumbo mosaics. And then the line that has profited me the most is the albino cherry snakeskins, which recently we have been discussing that are they really snakeskins or are they really a grass? Because somebody just tagged them with the snakeskin. So, really, in a lot of my shows recently, we have had a lot of discussions on that.
I have to honestly admit that I haven't seen those on your channel, but I may have just seen them. But they sound like a very, very interesting line, and I definitely will search for some kind of pictures or videos of them in the future.
They are on my website at the very top. They're the first fish you would see on my website.
That's super great. So, what diet do you usually feed your guppies?
My fish get just about only baby brine shrimp. I hatch out baby brine shrimp every day, and that's what they get. If I'm feeding babies, then I'll give babies. I'll feed them twice a day, and they'll get crushed flakes, and then the baby brine shrimp. Every now and then, when I can afford it, I buy bug bites because I really, really, really love bug bites, and I'll give everybody a treat. I do also every now and then give them blood worms. I also have a black worm culture and a micro worm culture and a vinegar worm culture. So they get a bunch of stuff, but their main diet is the baby brine shrimp.
That is absolutely amazing to hear because we all know that baby brine shrimp is definitely a superfood for guppies. And I wish I would be able to hatch my own, but right now I can't really afford it. And also, I don't really have a space to do it. So I usually feed dry foods, but that's super, super very diet that you're feeding your guppies. And I'm sure they're very happy. Have you ever considered joining Fancy Guppy Show?
Yes, and actually, because of you, I
Really?
have really, really been having it on my mind. Yes, I have really been having it on my mind. Problem is other than having someone work on the line with me, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. That's definitely a wormhole that I want to go down, that I'm ready to go down. But are my fish ready to go down? I'm not sure. So there's a lot of still questions that I have, but I am so ready to jump down it myself.
Definitely. And okay, we're going to make it happen. I'm really, really glad to hear this. But let's just back up a little bit from the guppy subject and focus on your YouTube channel once again. So, one of your most popular videos on YouTube is about raising brine shrimps to an adult. And I personally got many questions on my channel whether that is possible. So, can you maybe tell us about that video and how you grew your brine shrimps to adults?
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of an accident. So the first time I grew them out to adults, I had just started raising baby brine shrimp, and I had seen another video about raising them to adults, and so I just kind of copied what they were doing, and I just threw them in a 5 gallon bucket. Instead of throwing it out or rowing it down the drain when you're done feeding out that one batch, you take it and empty it into a 5 gallon bucket, stick a light on it, and there you go. Well, I had great luck with that for several months. and was feeding the adult brine shrimp to my betas. Then I had to move from where I had them at to a different location in the same room. But when I moved them, I decided to put them in an aquarium instead of in that bucket. And I just, from that point on, I couldn't do it again. I mean, I tried and tried and tried. I could not raise them to adults again. So I gave up doing it in the house. Well, it was summertime and I had a 20 long outside that had a leak halfway up it. Okay, well, I tell you what, I can't use it for this, can't use it for that. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to see if I can grow them outside. So I started pulling my remains in there, and it took a good month and a half for it to, I guess, finally decide to take off or whatever. And I was walking by it one day, wasn't even thinking to look in it to think that I would see, adults, but oh my gosh, I mean, there were thousands of them, and I was so thinking excited. Well, then I started harvesting them and I started adding to them again. Well, I added a big batch of them one night, and when I did, it messed up the substrate. Like it made the substrate go everywhere by pouring it in the wrong way, and I crashed it. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Really? I just did that. I just crashed the whole thing." So I left it alone, and it redid itself and they came back, and then I had baby brine shrimp adults up until we were probably getting the water was pretty cold to I mean it was getting into fall pretty well, so it really surprised me how cold they actually would go outside going into fall. And I would say, I mean, the water got to at least the upper 50s before that you finally didn't see them anymore. I'm not saying, I don't know if they can go dormant or if there are like shells that didn't hatch that could be rehatching as soon as it warms up again. That's what I'm hoping. So I'm hoping that in a few months I see it again.
That's super great. I have never heard about like raising brine shrimp to the adults. I knew that it's possible, but I've never heard actually experience of somebody doing it. So I'm really super happy that you've took us with you to through this experiment, and it was definitely a lot of fun and free food for your guppies and bettas, right?
That is so correct. Yeah, what I would originally wash down the drain made me thousands of adult brine shrimp that I would feed to my betas, and I enjoy the heck out of watching my betas hunt for them. To me, that is like so much. That's so cool.
I would definitely do the same. Another absolutely great thing that I really enjoy on your channel are your live streams. So you go live with your aquatic morning show with Jess, and also Down the Bayou with Jess and Chubbs that I had an honor to be part of. So could you tell us a bit more about what these shows are all about?
Well, so I first started off with Chubbs with Down the Bayou, and the way we came about that was me and Chubbs both live in Louisiana. I live in the northwest section of Louisiana, and he lives down in the southeast. So we were about 4 to 5 hours apart. But we thought it was pretty cool that there were two of us in Louisiana that were, kind of not live streaming like all the time, but starting to live stream. And so we decided to put together a Louisiana based live stream once a week. And the way we set it up is the first hour is on my channel. And usually I have a special guest, and that's where I interrogate them and ask all these questions and have a good time with it. And then the second half, we kind of do it more as a open panel hangout, so that if anybody would like to come up and ask that guest in person a question they have, or show them what they have, or if they have a question and want the guest to answer it, or whatever. And that's what that section or that hour is about. And that hour is done on Chubbs's channel. And we've had really good luck of switch from people going from my channel straight over to Chubbs's channel. It's been real smooth and it's worked out really good. Then one of the live streamers had to stop streaming after Father Fish in the morning, And at that time, it just worked out to where I thought that I could take it on. And so, yeah, I started doing 5 days a week. And honestly, I have no set time. I just start at 9:30 and we go till whenever. And it is a hangout. It is a hangout for any of the fish fam, any of the fish extended family, for anyone that has the same interests as we do. And not just fish though, because I do also, include other animals, as in my title, but I do it as the aquatic morning show. But everyone is welcome, and anyone can come up that has good intentions and hang out and talk and just have a good time in the morning. Drink your coffee, then get on with your day. Some days I do an hour, and some days I can do 4.5 hours.
That is super great. I'm sometimes joining myself, as for me, it usually is afternoon coffee. Yes. Usually, when you guys are going live, it is afternoon my time. So it's actually time for coffee after lunch for me. And I really, really enjoy joining your live streams as well. But another than guppies, you also have experiences with breeding bettas, as we've been talking about.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a bit more about those? What strains you have been working with? And can you maybe introduce us a bit more about your ways of breeding bettas?
So I got into betas the same time I got into guppies. I had been researching that as well on YouTube and decided, well, if they can do it, I can do it. It is not easy breeding betas. Betas are, you got to look at betas as like humans. They are going to pick their mate. It may be because of looks, it may be because of attitude, it may be because of age. You don't know. In what you pick for, so you have a male and you pick a female, and I mean, you cross your fingers and you hope that they like each other, and it all goes well from breeding or from courtships per se to actually getting the eggs fertilized and hatched. It's a process. What I do is I put them in jars side by side, and then I wrap that jar in something to where they can't see out of it, but they can still see each other. And for 5 days, I feed them like 3 and 4 times a day, and I feed them nothing but protein, bloodworms, brine shrimp, blackworms. I mean, nothing but protein. And then I will take and I'll pull at the end of the 5 days. On that sixth day, I'll pull the male and I will put him in a tote, a clear tote, and I will put about 3 to 4 inches of water in it. I'll put an Indian almond leaf in it, and I'll put a few plants in it so that when I put the female in it, she can have time to get away and rest. First day, also, first day and night gives him time to say, okay, this is my space, this is my area, and start building his bubble nest. The second day, I keep the female in the jar and I put her in the tote still in the jar. And then that's when he really goes to building a bubble nest and going by and flaring and then going back and building his bubble nest and all that. So I guess by the seventh to eighth day, I let her loose. And I do not leave anymore. I do not leave and go do something and come back. When I let her loose, I stay in my fish room and I keep my eyes near because they will kill each other. They just as their name, Siamese fighting fish. You do have to watch them because if the male don't like the female, if the female don't like the male, because I've had that happen. I definitely make sure that I pay more attention now than what I used to. I have lost some really nice fish by not doing that. But if they do like each other and everything goes well, I've had it happen within 2 hours, and I've had it happen within 24 hours or even 36 hours. Getting to the wrapping stage, which is their mating stage, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch. It's very elegant. This is the part where they no longer are fighting and they're not chasing and nipping and all that any longer. They are as one, and it really is a beautiful interaction. They'll mate or he'll wrap her, he squeezes the eggs out of her. Then if you have a really good female, she'll help bring the eggs up from the bottom, and then they put them up in the nest. And now once they're done, or once she's done and he knows it, he'll run her off. And that's the time to make sure you grab her and put her out, because otherwise he can kill her, because she may be one of those good ones that may be wanting to help with the process, which does happen a lot. And at that point, he's like, no, get away from my babies. These are mine. Be gone. That's a very dangerous stage for the female. So you definitely got to make sure to grab her out. Usually, when the females have bred and they're, they look a wreck, they're all been nip fins, and, they may even have some open wounds. I take and put them in their own 1 gallon tank, and I do have a little salt added to it, and that is for them to just recover. It can take a matter of a few days to recover, or it may take months for them to recover. Yeah, it just depends on how badly they were injured during the courting process. Then you go to the male. So then you keep your fingers crossed that he actually fertilized the eggs and doesn't eat the eggs. And so for the first 2 or 3 days, you got your fingers crossed. And you're sitting there saying, "Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there." And then you should start seeing them to where they have little tails and little wigglers, but they still have their egg yolk attached. So they start falling from the nest, and that's where the male goes and picks them up and brings them and puts them back up in the nest. Sometimes, if the male is scared or if he feels uncomfortable, he will still eat them at that stage. So you got to be careful with that as well. But once they are free swimming, which is usually about day 5, 6 normally, you pull the male, because then it's no longer they're his babies, it's they are small fish he can eat. So then you pull them, and then you raise the babies. And the babies, I start off with, oh, son of a gun, I can't think of what it's called. I take dried out duckweed, and because I dry it out all the time, and then I've already, by this point, I've gotten it wet for 2 or 3 days while they were in the nest, and it makes little tiny microorganisms. And I'm sorry, the name of it escapes me right now.
Is it infusoria?
That's right. That's correct. It is
Yeah.
infusoria. So it creates or makes infusoria, and that is what they eat first. Then, if they're good and they're still going on and living and everything, the next meal would be vinegar eels, which I also have those. And then the next meal are micro worms, and then they move on to brine shrimp, baby brine shrimp. Once they're at the baby brine shrimp stage, to me, as long as you're keeping that water clean and they are warm at 83 to 84 Fahrenheit, they're good. They're kind of out of that scary stage where you're worried about you losing them due to elements or whatever. And then you just keep raising them. I usually keep them in a 2.5 gallon tank at that point till they outgrow that. And then I move them to a 10 gallon tank. And then in that tank, they'll stay for a few months, because you won't know male or female until about that age. Once they start doing that, then you start separating the males once they start getting aggressive. I always keep the females together, because I do have people that want to buy full sororities, and that's the best way in the world. That is the best way to have a sorority, not by going out and buying different females and put them together. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying raising the sisters together, that is the best way to have a sorority. The males I take, and I have beta barracks that we built, and they're big cups. They're 32-ounce cups, because I didn't want them living in small little cups. I wanted them in as big as I could get them and keep them still in barracks. And I would still like to get a little bit bigger, but I've got to rearrange my beta barracks. But I would like to see them in a little bit more water, but that's a work in progress. But then the males grow out in there, and then I list them on my website. It's a long process. It is nothing like breeding guppies. Guppies are easy compared to breeding guppies. And recently, I have tried several different pairs and have had no luck. And we just think it's this time of year. We think that even though we create an atmosphere in a tank where it's their environment year round, the barometric pressure still has something to do with it, and we think they have a like a time clock per se. Like they still know the seasons, even though we recreate their atmosphere or their living arrangements per se in an aquarium. We're beginning to think that they still have a time clock or still can see the seasons or feel the seasons, and like the way the barometric pressure raises and lowers, thinking that may have something to do with it, especially like in places where you have seasons, like 4 seasons. Normally, where they are bred and raised, there's not 4 seasons. I think that's what we're realizing here, where we have seasons, that's having something to do with it.
Well, breeding bettas is definitely super interesting process, and I'm willing to give it a shot in the future, and I definitely will have to do it at some point. But other than fish, you have also an entire farm of animals, right? So how is it like to live on the farm? Because like I really would love to live that kind of lifestyle as I have lived my whole life in the apartment. But can you maybe describe your daily routine and what animals you actually work with?
Well, so I grew on a ranch per se, a small ranch where we had cows and we took care of other people's cows. We always had horses because we used horses to take care of the cows. And then I also rodeoed. I'm not sure what y'all call it, over there, but we call it rodeoing over here, where I run barrels. I grew up running barrels and poles, pole bending, and roping and goat tying. So growing up, I did that. High school rodeo, was on the high school team, everything. That was one of my passions for sure, and still is. But as I got adult, I wanted some of the same. I didn't want to be as big. My husband is not of the ranching style, I guess. But so we compromised, and I was able to keep a small farm. So we've got 30 head of cattle. I've got 3 horses that I keep full time that are mine, that I give lessons to or on. I have a few girls and one boy that I do give riding lessons with, and they do use my horses. I will give lessons to others, but usually they come and need a horse to ride. So I pair them up with one of my 3, and then I give hour-long riding sessions. Actually, it's longer than that because depending on the day, if I don't have somebody that's coming in behind them, then I just let them ride for hour long. And then I raise Pembroke Welch corgis. We've always had ducks and chickens, and I've got 2 chickens left right now, and they are 7 or 8 years old. And I don't know how long chickens live, but that's old.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I have also seen your most recent puppies, and they're so
Yes.
super cute.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoy my dogs. I do raise them I raise them and sell them. Um, but if there was ever one that came along that needed rescued, I do the same thing. I love the breed. They're kid friendly. They're apartment friendly. They can go in big places. They can live in small places. Kids can pull their ears, pull their little nubby tails, and they don't care. They're happy, and but they are not a guard dog. These they are not guard dogs. They will bark at somebody, knocking on the door, but once you open the door, they're gonna lick them to death. Not a guard dog, but I like that. I like to laugh and be happy, and I like that in my dogs. They're also willing to please, which means they like to work, I guess, also. So you can use them as not so much like a guide dog because they're not quite tall enough for that, but as work dogs where you can take them into hospitals and just take them around. Working dogs. There's another word for it, and for whatever reason I can't think of it, but working dogs. And they also can work cattle. They are bred and raised for herding cattle or sheep or goats. And I don't use them for that. We'll play around with them. And what I am fishing to get in with them is the agility. They do really well in agility. And out of this litter, I am keeping a little blue merle female named Lena. And the last litter, we kept one named Caliber that I let my son keep, my 12-year-old. And so now we've got 3 corgis that permanently live in the house. I want to give them something else to do. And I think it'll be another kind of one of those rabbit holes just to have fun with. I don't want to compete doing the agility. Not right now anyway. I just want to have fun with it and give my dogs something else to do. And I think they'll have fun doing it too. So yes, those are my corgis.
That's super cool. All right, back to the fish keeping hobby. Longfin panda cories. On your YouTube channel, we can see those. So, where did you get them in the first place, and what are your experiences with those?
So I never was real attracted to the corridors. Never. I ran across these longfin panda cories at my local pet store or fish store. They have long flowy fins and they're black and white. And they only had three left. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get lucky and I'll have male and female. So I did. I grabbed them up. And if you haven't noticed a pattern yet, everything that I own, I breed. I feel like they kind of got to help earn their keep. It's expensive keeping animals, and including fish. But I got the three, hoping that I get male and female. I have not tried real hard yet to recreate their conditions as breeding wise. I did just move them from a very small tank to 38-gallon, and they seem so much happier. I think really without really having to do much, they'll do it themselves. And then I also have the pygmy cories. I picked up some of those at the same LFS. They are just plumb cute. They are not even maybe half an inch long, and they just scurry together all over the tank. They stay together, and it's funny to see them swim in a line chasing each other. They are so cute. They don't really remind me of a true Corridora. They're more for a nano tank, which is more of what I have, nano tanks.
Yeah, the same over here, exactly. You have your own webpage where people can go and purchase your animals. Could you tell us more about this webpage and what we can find there?
Well, I wanted the website to be where I could sell my fish or my puppies or my cows, for instance, or anything I have for sale. But I also wanted it to be personal as you get to meet and know the dogs and get and meet the cows and the horses. I've got, video of the puppies and I have them on there. And now I have not gotten to get the horses or the cows on there yet, but I'm working on that. But that's what I had in mind with the website. I wanted to be able to sell my animals that I do have up for sale, but I also wanted it to be personal. That way you would get to know who I am, not just here's another website to go buy fish off of or go buy puppies off of. I do try to keep or add my YouTube links that have the personal fish, or excuse me, the one breed of fish, or the puppies, or also on the horses page. My girls that I give lessons to, they can't wait for me to post videos of them on it. Just a place for people to get to know me and my animals and buy something if they're there.
Perfect. So, another topic, summer tubs. You have quite a bit of space over there. Are you doing summer tubs and bringing your fish outside for summer?
Yes, I have a 150-gallon tub. Actually, two of those. Sorry, I have 250-gallon tubs, and then I've got a 100-gallon tub that I ran last summer. Last summer, I just did assorted guppies, assorted fancy guppies in them that I sell to my LFS, and then the other one I did my mollies, my self-in leertail balloon mollies. So I had three last year. This year, I was thinking about adding some, but instead of adding some, I think I'm going to focus more on my pond. Well, I've already got a fountain that has a stream to it with a very small pond that just takes the water back up to the top. But off of that, I want a pond. And I have learned that with goldfish, especially the shabunkins and the orandas, that you need to be at least 3 feet deep for them to make it through the winter. That way they can get down deep enough for it to be warm, even if it's, cold outside and whatever up top. It needs to be, not freezing or to the point where they can live through it during the winter. So I think I'm going to focus more on my pond to put the goldfish in than adding any more summer tubbings than the three that I have. But the difference with those is this year I'm only going to do one assorted guppy tub, and then the other one I am going to pick a strain from inside my fish room and see how well it breeds outside. But I haven't made that choice. I do not know which one I want to choose.
So we're getting close to the end of the interview, but there are still few more questions that I definitely need to ask you. And first of all, what was your first ever fish and what's your most favorite fish right now?
My first ever fish was a comet goldfish given to me at a carnival that I won.
Oh my god, you wouldn't believe how many people actually started fish keeping like this. Like literally in my past 3 interviews, everybody started with a goldfish.
No way. Well, we took it home, put it in a bowl because I knew nothing. And of course, it didn't make it long, but then it was several years till I got another tank. Then in that tank, it was I think a 38 or a 40, and it was given to us, and it already was set up and everything. It had a sump. I couldn't even tell you what fish we had in it. We would just go and buy fish and throw them in there and hope for the best, not knowing, oh well, this fish can go with this fish or that fish can go with this fish. Nobody told us, and we didn't. I didn't know that my LFS was even there. We just went to Walmart probably. Whatever fish survived in that tank just survived. And when you would go to clean the tank, you would clean the tank. I would take the bio balls from the sump, take them outside, power wash them, bring them back inside, and then you'd pull all the fish out, put them in separate cups, and do a detail on the inside of the aquarium. And and didn't know anything about the nitrogen cycle or all the good and bad bacteria. Knew nothing. And when the sucker just kept crashing on me and all the fish kept dying, I finally got tired of that, and I gave the fish tank away to a park or a reservation here that raises or gets native fish donated to them. So that's where that tank went. And then it wasn't until 2 Christmases now, I had been looking at her guppies, which are just regular fancy guppies. I just kept looking at them and kept looking up, and I was like, Mama, I want some. I was like, next time you say you're going to take them to the store, I was like, can I have them? So she ended up giving them to me for Christmas. And then I got them given to me. So I raised those. Those were actually what my assorted mutt guppies, per se, that I raised outside in the pond were. From there, and went on Aquabid and bought the half black pastels.
Actually, this is one of the things that I've been discussing a lot quite recently because just like a couple of days ago actually happened to me that in one of the Facebook groups, in one of the Slovak aquarium Facebook groups, there was this lady also commenting like, oh, I had the crash in the aquarium, I both some fish, they all died, what was happening? And then everybody went through, like, when did you set the aquarium? Then she was like, 3 days ago, I both all the fish, I both some plecos, the fish died on me, nothing, she didn't know anything about the cycle and all this kind of stuff. And you wouldn't believe how much hate she got over there for, like, oh, why would you go and buy a fish and don't make your research and yada yada yada. And like at the end of the day, I also wrote over there like you guys, this is the last thing that this lady needs, like go ahead, tell her, explain her what she's supposed to do next time better, explain her how she can become better fish keeper, and we may have another fish keeper for the rest of her life, like we may have another person in a hobby. Like how many people got into the hobby by getting their first goldfish in a plastic bag and knowing nothing about it. Professionals who are writing books about fish keeping started exactly the same way, like they just got a goldfish in a bag, then they came home, they've been like, okay, this is all right. Maybe that first goldfish didn't really live for that long, but it was something that kick-started their into the fish keeping hobby. So it's always like, yes, you're supposed to do your research, it is still a living animal, but at the same time, if it wouldn't be of the goldfish in a plastic bag, how many fish keepers we wouldn't really have in a hobby right now, right?
Right. I mean, even though the carnivals that give out all the goldfish, they're not right for doing that. But how many did we get from that? How many fish keepers have we gotten from them doing that? I mean, it is a catch-22. They should not be criticizing her. They should be helping her. What is it? Constructive criticism.
Yeah, constructive criticism. Yeah, let's definitely put it this way, that if you guys are gonna ever be seeing something like this in any social media platforms or any group or any discussion, just go ahead and support this person. Negativity is the last thing that we all need in our lives.
Exactly. There's enough of that out there already.
Yeah, so let's move into another question, and that is how many aquariums you currently have and how many would you like to have in the future?
Woo! So with just about anything I do, I jump in it and run. I don't go into anything slowly. I started out with a 10-gallon, the one that my mom gave me, that or the one I got the mutt guppies from, or the fancy guppies from my mom in. I bought 20-gallon tall, and that's what I put half black pastels in. From there, I've got 31 tanks now that range from 1 gallon to 40 breeders. Actually, right before this podcast, was given a 40 breeder that's already drilled and everything. So it's the second 40 breeder I've gotten. And then I have a 38, 120 long and 220 highs. Everything else are 10 gallons. And then a few 5.5s, and I think two 2.5s. And then I've got some totes. But the majority of the size is a 10-gallon.
Super amazing. And this all started by the goldfish in the plastic bag.
That's right.
All right, all right, all right. We're coming close to the end, and my last question for you today is going to be, what can we be looking for in the future of your channel, and do you have any large projects coming up?
The large project coming up is probably going to be the pond. Okay, there's a few of them. So one of them is the pond this summer, and that's going to be a work in progress. I may not be just this year. It may take me a few years to get done. But the second thing is I'm fixing to jump into discus. I want some parrot blood discus, and that's what I'm getting the 40 breeders for. I cannot have anything larger than a 40 breeder due to my space. So I can only go with the 40 breeders as big as the tanks as I can get. But I am fixing to try my hand at the parrot blood discus and electric blue rams.
That's so, so amazing. And thank you very much for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the myth, the legend, Jess. And I really want to thank you so much for finding your time and doing this interview today with us. And I really can't wait to see what future holds for your amazing channel. So thank you very much, Jess, for coming up today.
Oh, thank you so much, Pat. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
Me too. So this was another episode of Late Night Talk. Thank you very much, Jess. And this time it was with Jessica Normand. And I hope you guys enjoyed this interview at least as much as I did. And will join us again next Monday. Good night, guys, and I'll see you in that next video.